He left work that evening, thinking about only one thing. Just one. A cold drink to wash away the dust of the day. A short, easy laugh with a friend. Then home. That was the plan. A simple plan for a simple man. But by the end of that night, long after the sun had gone down and the city had fallen into a restless sleep, he was holding a court file. A thick, heavy file with his name printed on it in cold black ink, and beside it, a sentence that would take away half of his life. A life he thought he knew. A life he was about to lose. He finished his work that day, just like he always did. The dust from the construction site clung to his clothes like a second skin. His hands were tired, calloused from a day of labor under a relentless sun. It was a long day, a hard day, but it was behind him now. He was an electrician, not a man of great importance, not a man with grand ambitions, just a man trying to earn an honest living in a city that did not give things away for free. In his pocket, nestled amongst the loose change and a folded piece of paper with his wife's shopping list, were the usual tools of his trade: a roll of electrical tape, a pair of worn-out pliers, and a small, flathead tester screwdriver. It was tiny, barely the length of his finger, something he used a dozen times a day to check for live wires. He didn't think about it being there. He carried it with him every single day. It was a part of him, an extension of his work. That evening, he met his friend at a small local pub. It was nothing fancy. It was the kind of place you go to when you don't want to be seen, when you just want to disappear into the noise. Loud, distorted music blared from old speakers. The chairs were made of cheap, cracked plastic, and the drinks were served in mismatched glasses. But it was familiar. It was comfortable. They sat there and they laughed. They talked about work, about the foreman who shouted too much, about the deadlines that were impossible to meet. They complained about life, about the rising cost of everything, about the promises that never seemed to come true. And for a moment, just for a little while, everything felt normal. The weight of the world seemed to lift, replaced by the simple comfort of friendship and a shared understanding. Then, a stranger walked over to their table. He swayed on his feet, his eyes clouded with drink and something else. Something ugly. He was drunk. He was angry. And he was looking for attention, for a stage to perform his rage upon. He chose them. He started insulting his friend. The words were slurred, but the venom was clear. He called him names, vile names that cut through the noise of the pub. He pushed at his shoulder, trying to provoke a reaction. At first, they tried to ignore him. They turned away, tried to continue their conversation, hoping he would simply get bored and move on. "Let it go," his friend whispered, his voice low. "He's not worth it. Let's just finish our drinks and leave." The advice was wise. It was the right thing to do. But the man didn't stop. He was not looking for reason. He was looking for a fire to fuel. One push became a hard shove. A shove became a sudden, swinging punch. The pub, which was already a sea of noise, exploded into chaos. The air crackled with a new kind of energy: fear, excitement, danger. Chairs scraped against the concrete floor as people scrambled to get a better view, or to get away. Someone screamed, a high, sharp sound that pierced through the music. The electrician stood up, not because he wanted to fight. He was not a violent man. He stood up because his friend was on the ground, and the stranger was standing over him, ready to strike again. His heart was pounding in his chest, a frantic drum against his ribs. His mind went blank. There was no thought, no plan, only instinct. The stranger swung again, a wild, clumsy arc aimed at his friend's head. And in that split second, that single fateful moment between one breath and the next, the electrician reacted. He didn't think. He just moved. His hand, the hand of a worker, a provider, shot out. The small tester screwdriver in his pocket, a tool for mending things, became something it was never meant to be. It became a weapon. There was a sharp cry, a strangled gasp. The aggressive man froze, his eyes wide with a sudden shocking clarity. Then he collapsed to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. A dark stain began to spread across his shirt, blossoming outwards on the dusty ground. The music, as if by some unseen signal, stuttered and died. Silence fell. A heavy, suffocating silence that was louder than all the noise before it. People who had been cheering moments ago now backed away, their faces a mixture of horror and disbelief. The electrician stared down at his own hands, as if they belonged to someone else. His legs felt weak, unable to hold his weight. A single desperate thought echoed in the sudden quiet of his mind. This wasn't supposed to happen. Fear, cold and absolute, took over. It washed away the anger, the instinct, the adrenaline. Someone from the crowd, a shadow in the doorway, shouted, "Let's go! Run!" And they ran, he and his friend. They scrambled out of the pub and into the dark, welcoming arms of the night. Their hearts were racing, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They didn't wait. They didn't look back. They just ran until their lungs burned and their legs ached. They didn't know, as they disappeared into the labyrinth of the city's back alleys, that the man on the floor would not get up. They didn't know that he would later die in a hospital bed, a victim of a fight he started over nothing. 2 days later, there was a knock on his door. It was early in the morning. There was no shouting, no drama, no battering ram. Just 2 quiet, grim-faced police officers and the soft, metallic click of handcuffs closing around his wrists. He kept saying the same words, over and over again, a desperate mantra. It was an accident. I was just trying to help my friend. But in the cold, unfeeling language of the law, accidents still have consequences. Good intentions do not erase the outcome. He was charged with murder. Bail was set. 500,000 shillings. It was a sum he could not even imagine. It was money he didn't have. Money his family, his friends, everyone he knew put together didn't have. So he stayed. The days turned into weeks. The weeks turned into months. 2 long years he spent in remand, waiting, sleeping on cold, unforgiving floors, packed into a cell with strangers. He watched time move on without him, through the bars of a small, high window. The world outside kept turning, but his had stopped. Visits from his family became quieter, shorter. The initial tears and promises of help slowly gave way to tired eyes and a heavy, unspoken sadness. Hope, he discovered, does not die in a sudden explosion. It fades slowly, like a photograph left out in the sun, until you can barely recognize the face you once knew. When his case finally ended, the courtroom was silent. The air was thick with tension. He stood in the dock, his hands trembling slightly. The judge, a distant figure in black robes, spoke. His voice was steady, devoid of emotion. 25 years. His ears rang. His body went numb. The words seemed to hang in the air, unreal, impossible. 25 years. For a moment that had lasted only a few seconds. For a single, thoughtless reaction. For a small tool he carried in his pocket every day. As he was taken away, led from the courtroom back into a world of concrete and steel, one thought kept repeating in his mind, a torturous loop with no end. What if I had just walked away? What if he had listened to his friend? What if he had swallowed his pride, picked his friend up, and just left? Some fights do not end in the bar. They do not end with a handshake or a shared drink of reconciliation. They end in courtrooms. They end in prison cells. They end in lost years you can never, ever get back. You do not have to be a criminal, a thief, or a gangster to lose your freedom. You do not need a history of violence or a heart full of malice. You just need one bad decision, one moment where pride overrules wisdom, 1 second where you forget what is truly at stake. The lesson is simple. but it is one that is so often ignored in the heat of the moment. Not every argument deserves your pride. Not every insult needs a reply. Not every fight deserves your strength. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do, the bravest action you can take, is to simply walk away.